Once upon a time, I taught high school, so I thought I'd start with a 11th grade U.S. history pop quiz.
For everyone? Or
For everyone. And this is material you probably had, most of you, if you went to high school in the U.S., probably had U.S. history in the 11th grade, and you covered these periods. So, first question. Of the first 5 presidents of the United States, how many owned slaves? 4. Excellent. Now let's get a trickier one. How many owned slaves while they were president?
4.
Good. Of those 4, what was the average number of slaves they owned? No, 300, yes. Extra credit. Of the first dozen presidents of the United States, that gets us up to about 1850. Of the first dozen, how many owned slaves? Any guesses? Good. How many of those 10 owned slaves while they were president?
8.
Good. How many of those 12 owned, let's say, more than 50 slaves and asserted the sub- or non-humanity of their enslaved? 7. Okay, last bonus question. Of those 10 slave-owning presidents, who owned the most slaves? You've already been introduced to him. Jefferson, the apostle of liberty and freedom and whatnot, owned about 600. So I mentioned this in praise of the book, after all, arguing that racism and racist ideas aren't a scar on America's political tradition. They are, in some sense, they are America's intellectual tradition.